Okay, so we're taking a look at some of SQL's aggregate functions. Aggregate functions are functions that can operate on more than one record for a specific field at the same time. The ones we're going to be looking at are min, max, average, and sum, because they all go together kind of nicely. Before we get started, if you like this video, please hit the like button. Also, consider subscribing. But let me show you this table. It's a real simple table. We've got an employee, we've got a department, we've got a salary. Okay, pretty straightforward, right? What we're going to do, okay, is I'm going to show each of these separately. Here's what happens. If I take this table, and if I say sum salary, the sum of the salary, and I'm just going to call it sum sal, from employees, and there's no where clause after it, what's going to happen is it's just going to give me the sum of every salary in the entire table. And boom, it's like 8 million and change. Yeah, how'd you like to write that check out every year? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show the max salary. This is the biggest salary in the table. Okay, somebody's making 980,000. That would, be a nice check, right? Now here's the minimum salary. This is going to be disappointing. Ouch, somebody makes 14,000. Wow, there's no fairness in the world. Okay, and then lastly, the average salary. So the average salary, it's got this long number because it's sort of irrational, but it's 111,000. You'll kind of notice right away that the average is not halfway in between the top and the bottom salaries. It just doesn't work that way in real life. Okay, so that's how each of these things do. Without a where clause, it basically takes the average of every salary in the table, or the minimum of every salary, or the max of every salary, or the sum of all of them put together. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show group by. Group by is pretty cool. By doing group by department, what's going to happen is if I run this line of code here saying select the department and the sum of the salary, but I'm grouping it by department, it's going to show me one record for every department, but then the sum of all the salaries in that particular department. And this is pretty cool. All right, so in finance, they're making almost $500,000. HR, 177. The intern, 14,000. Why do interns get paid? Yeah, that's weird. Anyway, the software guys are making a ton of money. They're like almost up to 3 million. Gotta love it. Strategic planning, is that even a thing? Okay. Anyway, so you kind of get how that works. Now, if I want to see the max salary in every department, okay, this is going to be fun. Look at what some of these people make. Finance, somebody's making $145. Management, somebody's making 290,000. Let's see about the software guys. Ooh, one guy's making $980,000 a year. I'm liking that. Oh, minimum salaries. Okay, this is going to be horrible. The minimum salary by department. Again, we're doing the group by. Okay. Well, some of these aren't too, well, yeah, some of them are pretty bad. If only there was a way to justify this. But in software, even the lowest guy is getting paid 245,000. That's not bad, That's why you want to learn this stuff. Got to learn software. Must learn software. And then now we're going to look at the average in each department. Now, this average might be more in the middle of, but anyway, all I really care about is the software department. Average salary, 368,000. Boom. Just remember, this is an imaginary table. I made all this stuff up. But now what I'm going to do is I indented this a little differently. Basically, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take all this stuff and I'm just going to put it into one query. So instead of having it, it's going to show the department once, but then it's going to have, the sum, the max, the min, and the average all together in like one little report. So let me do that. I have to make sure that I'm selecting every part of it, or it may not work. Wow, every time I hit cap locks, it doesn't do anything with the shift key. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so here we go. Bam. So look at this. Already by itself, this is a handy little report if you think about it. I mean, let's go back to software because that's our favorite. The sum of the salaries is almost 3 million. The max is 980, the minimum is 250,000, and the average is 368. So, and actually, if we were to take, as you know, the sum and divide it by the average, we should get the number of employees in the department. Yay! Or we could just add count to the end of this, but that's okay. All right, now last but not least, so that's group by. You kind of get how that works. Group by, you can make kind of quick, down and dirty reports, for what you need to do. But here's something that you may or may not have seen in the past, and that is called an analytical function or a window function. They're the same thing for the most part, but what it is, you just take your typical aggregate functions, but then you add to them this over keyword, and then really cool stuff like partition by. And in this case, we're partitioning by the department. Once you do this, it opens up a whole new world of extra functionality by just writing this one line of code. And it's not even a line of code, it's just one piece of a select statement. This is all part of the same select statement. But watch what this does, okay? I could have done this without using partition, but I want to show you the full firepower of this. Watch what this does. I'm just going to run it, and this is going to, if you've never seen this before, by the way, if you've never seen this before, you probably understand, like, this part. You've probably never seen, really? You've probably never seen this part, and why does it do that? And you've probably never seen this part, the partition by, but just kind of get used to seeing the code like that, because you really want to play around with this stuff, because it will be on the test, meaning if you go on an interview, it is highly likely, if you're going in for a strictly SQL job, they will ask you about stuff like this. It's going to come up, you gotta know it, and you will use it on the job. But when you think about how much time it saves, so let's just run it. Let's just do it. Now, let me explain what's happening here. The first thing is, everything is partitioned or grouped by department. See? And it just keeps going down. I know we only have limited space. Let me move this back up a little bit. Okay. So we got finance, we got HR. By the way, the reason they're called it's called a window function as well as an analytical function is because, you could think of this as one window, and this is another window in like a big building. Okay, to keep it really simple. When we take this first record in finance, the first salary we come to is $123,000. Now this column is going to be a running total. In other words, it's going to just keep adding every row, the current row to all the rows before it. So in the first one, it's 123,000, and it's the same thing. The max is 123, the min is 123, and the average is 123, because you're starting with 123. But some interesting stuff that happens when we get to the second record. So now we have 123 and 145. Well, now the sum is these two things put together, so it comes up with 268. But then when it looks at these two, it says, well, what's the max of those? Well, it's 145. What's the min on these? The lower one, it's 123. And what's the average? It's probably like 134. Yeah, and then there it is. And then we get to 89,600, and, the sum is just adding all three of these together. The max is still this one, but now we have a new minimum. Yay, you've got the new minimum. So what we have here, and then the average is a new average because it's taking all three of these into account. And then it does the same thing for the fourth one. But then what happens when we get to HR? Everything starts over. We got 64,000. It's like these records don't exist anymore. This thing starts in its own department. The odometer starts over again. So for the first record, everything's set to 64,000. Then we get 49,800. So it adds the two of them together. That's the higher one, that's the lower one, and that's the average. And then when we have all three of these together, well, that's the sum, or the total. That's still the highest, now that's the lowest, and that's the average. So it's a running total, it's a running max, it's a running min, and it's a running average, but it's broken down by department. You should already be imagining how powerful this is, because just ask yourself this one question. How on earth would you produce this record set if you didn't have this? Could you do it? Yeah, but you would be here just to do this one. You'd have to have some variables and you'd have to be looping through it. Just to do this, you'd have to have variables and you'd have to loop through it. Just to do this, you'd have to have, and it's the same thing. Basically, you'd probably have like 12 to 1800 lines of code. That's with indenting the way I do. And it would take probably like an hour. This takes nothing. You just type out the first one and then you cut and paste and change this to min, or to max, and to min, and to ev, and you're done. So here's what you need to do. Look at a few more examples online about these analytical functions, but then try a few. Download somebody's code for a table and then to insert the table and then play around with it. Now, I will tell you that on some editors, it's all supposed to work the same way, but on Oracle, SQL Server, DB2, sometimes things work a little differently. Like on Postgres, it'll let you get away without using an order by. But on SQL Server, you have to have the order by, period. So little stuff like that. So if you start making mistakes or getting errors that you don't understand, do not get frustrated. Just keep going and keep going. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them, okay? All right. Go practice this stuff. Set up some interviews. Make some money. And even if you go on an interview and it doesn't go your way, you'll learn what you need to work on. That's the beauty of it. You can't lose. Just do online interviews. You waste a half an hour, but you learn from it. All right, guys, go make some money. See you in the next video. Ta-ta.